In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut this stylish, backless, deep plunging neckline princess dart basque dress. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. And this dress is from Hoodie Couture on Instagram. Now to start, we're going to work on the upper part of this dress first. But you need to get the full length of your dress and then minus the half length from it. So my shoulder to waist is 17 inches and the full length of this dress is 35 inches. Let's say it's 35 inches. So now you're going to minus your half length, which is my shoulder to waistline 17 inches from that 35. Now what you have left is 18 for the skirt. Now after the waistline, I added an additional length for the basque length of this dress. Now the basque length is not included in the length of the dress. It's just an addition at the front part of this dress, right? Now the next step you need to take is to go ahead and mark your shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 divided by 2. I'll have is 7 inches, which I marked, came down by 1 inch at that point. I marked a basic neckline of 3 inches. From that 1 inch mark, I'll connect it back to the neckline. Next is to find my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. I made a mark there, placed my ruler, and I'll draw out a straight line. Now, after I'm done marking that, at the chest line, I'll mark back what I have on the shoulder, which is my shoulder divided by 2. Now, I'll place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my tape. Divide what I have into 2, and at that point, I'll come out by ½ inch. Here, I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. After this, I'll go ahead to connect from there to the ½ inch at the armhole and to the upper part of my shoulder. Now, after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my dart. Now, to mark my dart, I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I'm going to mark this all the way from the upper part to the lower part of my pattern, including the basque length. Now, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line connecting those lines. Now, after I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to mark my dart intake. I'll mark ½ inch here and 1.5 on this side. ½ inch here, 1.5 here. If you're plus size, you mark 1 inch here and 2 inches on the other side, right? Now, I'll just go ahead to mark this out very well. What I'll do is to place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to rule a straight line on this part all the way to the basque length. And I'll also go ahead to repeat this at the other side of my pattern and I'm going to draw out a straight line. Now, from here, I'm just going to outline. After that, I'll place my ruler, connect from the bust down to the under bust. Repeat this at the other side, connect from the bust down to the under bust also. Now, after I'm done connecting this, after connecting, I'll go ahead to come in by that ½ inch, that is the midpoint of my armhole, and I'll connect it down to my bust point this way. Now, I'll mark ½ inch on both sides as a dart intake, and I'll blend it into my pattern this way and also blend it on the other side. After I'm done blending it in, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline it. Now, this dart intake of ½ inch on both sides, I'll take it out. That is, I'll replace it by the side and you connect it back to your armhole. Now, after I'm done replacing it or connecting it back to my armhole, I'll outline that part. The next step is to start inserting my measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. My bust is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. I'll mark. Pick this dart intake here and I will replace it. Then add a sewing allowance. Add any sewing allowance of your choice. Mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Place my dart intake and add my sewing allowance. Now, I'm going to go ahead to mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake I have here, replace it, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Now, I'll go ahead and mark this, my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now, you can cut this as an inbuilt dress and then go ahead to cut out the basque waistline. So if you check this actually on the page, it's more like an inbuilt dress that has, then you put on your skirt on it and draft out the basque. Now if you don't want to do this, we are drafting this directly as a basque waistline. So first I'll go ahead to connect all my patterns first before we go ahead to alter that part. I'll mark my bust dart, which is the difference between my shoulder to waist in front and my shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. If you take out 15.5 from 17, you're going to have 1.5. This is how I got 1.5 and I blended it. Now after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to outline this side of my pattern and we'll continue drafting out our pattern. If you're drafting it as an inbuilt dress, you come up by 1.5, 2 inches or 2.5 by the side and connect. Now the basque will be done later on the dress, so you can check that out on her page actually. Now but for this pattern, we'll draft it out directly. But before doing that, I'll come in by 1 inch, then go up by 1 inch here. Then I'm going to go ahead to like draw a curve. I'll draw like a curve this way, right, and connect it to the under bust. So from this point I went up by 1.5 and connected. Now after connecting to this side, I realized I had to go back to the video and I checked it out. So what we had there was more like a cup, so I'll go ahead to readjust that part of my pattern much later. Now here I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches, and from this 1 inch I have there, I'll come in by half. That is, I'll have like almost half inch or 0.75, and I'll go ahead to connect the neckline of this dress. Now after I'm done connecting the neckline of this dress, I went ahead to outline this. Now for the neckline, you can use 2 inches to 2.5. Now I'll start blending it up by the side, blend in my pattern. So from here I'll make sure that I'll connect it to this side. Now blend in this dart and I'll now extend it here, right? Now after I was done connecting, I noticed that this part went up like a cup. That is, after I was done cutting, I had to check the video again. So what I did was I had to like readjust it, but that will be much later. Now we are going to mark out the basque waistline. So come in by your sewing allowance. Any sewing allowance you're using, come in by that, so that the basque, your waistline at the front and at the back will match. Now I went ahead to connect this way, and I went down by 4 inches to draw out my basque. Now I will just go ahead to cut out this pattern. Now at the upper part, you want to add like an extension for the neckline so that you can make or create a backless dress. Now I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question, go ahead to leave it at the comment section. Now after I was done cutting this out, this is what I had here. So just like I said, I readjusted the pattern when I realized that it was looking like more like a cup. I had to like tape up the under bust with the upper part, and I had to like go ahead and give it a curve. I chopped out this part of my pattern a bit. That is when I was cutting it out. You can just go ahead to replace it a little. Now after cutting this, right, we are now going to go ahead to cut out the back pattern of this dress. Now here is the back pattern. I've marked out the zipper, and my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. Now I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements, and I also added a zipper. For the neckline, I'll use 3.5 by 1 inch for the back, or you can use 1.5 if you want it a bit lower. Now I'll just extend that mark to the zipper. Now I'll go ahead to outline this. Now the next step is to go ahead to divide my armhole. I left that part because I just want to divide it. It's the same thing we did at the front. Mark the midpoint, mark your bust circumference, and then connect it all the way up. Now after connecting it, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead
to mark my dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and draw a straight line. Mark half inch on both sides of my pattern. Go ahead to come down by 1 inch from the bust line and connect it down. Now I'll insert my measurement for this pattern. I'll start by marking my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace it, and add my sewing allowance. Go ahead to place my ruler and I will connect. So after marking that, by I'll come in by half inch, extend it all the way up. This is to get rid of the bulginess at the back. Now after this, I'll go ahead to cut out my back pattern.
I included a zipper for this part just in case you want to add a zipper. So now what you're going to do is, for this part is very easy. I'll bring the sides of that pattern, place the waistline matching the waistline, and I'll mark what I have there. And after marking what I have there, I'll just go ahead to connect it to the center part of the back pattern this way, and I'll be cutting that out, right? The back pattern is very easy, there's nothing much. So if you want a zipper, you just leave this zipper side, but if you don't want to use a zipper, you just go ahead to remove the zipper side. So this is me, I marked 2 inches, and I'll draw out a straight line and I'll cut it out. You can also decide to blend out your dart or cut it out. Moving over to the skirt pattern, you're going to place your tape, mark your waist to hip point. So use 7 inches, but if you're very tall, you can use 8 inches to get your hip line. Now when I'm making an inbuilt corset pattern or a bustier, I don't normally use a dart for my skirt. Now I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4, then add my sewing allowance. Here I'll mark the hip circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance. At the lower part, I will divide my hip circumference by 4 minus 2 inches from its mark, and then add a sewing allowance. Now this is so that the lower part of the skirt will be fitted. After marking this, I'll go ahead to connect. Now after I'm done connecting on this side, I'll extend it all the way to the lower part. Now after connecting, I'll go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, all I will do to cut out the back pattern is to go ahead to add a zipper allowance in front of this front pattern that I have cut out already. And remember, your pattern is on fold.